So when I was editing one of my videos, I wanted to include pictures of my parents' old house, this goddess temple on the water, and I couldn't find any. And so I looked for these old videos I had made where I know that I showed images of the house. And when I watched them, it was fascinating because it was around 7 years ago, I think, and I was just about to move to Korea, and I was thinking that I was completing the stage of, living with my parents again, and I talk about how I was inspired to work with ascended masters and how it transformed the way I experienced the home, which now I'm doing for other people. And what amazed me was the whole video actually was centered around this yoni egg, a quartz clear egg. And back then I didn't know how to use it properly, but it was blessed by each of the rooms in that home, and each of these ascended masters gave me blessings that I infused into that egg. So usually when my reaction to looking at even that video, I talk about how when I first graduated from college and I decided, instead of I was going to move to Korea immediately, I decided, I'll spend the summer with my parents and help them with their business, because it's going to be the last time I'm ever with them in this way. And I laughed at that, right? That I thought that was going to be this final chapter, and how 15 years later I found myself at my parents' house again, thinking I'm completing the cycle then. And then to watch that now, I think usually I would have felt kind of ashamed or embarrassed, how ridiculous that I thought that was going to happen, and look, I'm still stuck, in the same cycle. But this time I actually felt, I felt compassion and just a sense of wonder, that at the richness of my journey, at the fact that it has taken a lot more time than I think, but how much has transpired through that journey. I also had this insight that, the closet nook in the Sanctuary of Beauty, where it sort of looks like a stage now because of these curtains from that old house, I was thinking of it as stage, coming out, being more visible, being on the world stage. But it hit me that, stage also means a stage of life, transition. And that was very poignant to me today, because the last few days I've been in that part of the cycle where, when you have a dream or you're excited to manifest something and make changes, usually, I think about all the good things, right? I'm inspired and all this, positive things are going to happen. And then I often forget that, but the person you need to become to receive all those changes or to experience that new life means that you're going to have to alchemize or feel all of the things that have prevented you from experiencing that in the first place, right? So what was coming up for me was this feeling of being unsupported. And it was surprising because, I'm in a container with Jennifer where I'm receiving from her, right? I'm paying for that. And the Vaginal Kung Fu program is a program that's supporting me to deepen my relationship with my body and my vagina. And, I know that I'm supported by my parents, I'm supported by Tony, and I have actually really good friends in my life right now who I do feel are caring and, reciprocate because back when I was like younger in high school and college, I felt like I was often in the position of, being the counselor, or just the operating from that place of like people pleasing, or feeling like I had to like earn my value by being this certain type of friend or partner or daughter. And I feel I've cleared a lot of that, right? So that I've created a life where I'm actually connected with people who are loving and aware and giving. But this week, I really was just feeling like unsupported for some reason. So I don't know yet if it's like I'm just noticing the ways I'm still maybe over giving, like giving even when I feel depleted, and then later, feeling resentful that I'm not getting the same, sense of being witnessed or seen by the people in my life. And or if it's old feelings coming up because it's like I'm ready to be done with that story. I was very excited about this work on the farm, and just like asking that new employees come in so that I can have a graceful exit and the cafe still runs well. And then today I get to work and realize that actually another employee is quitting. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? We're going backwards, right? But then a new employee came in that we're hiring. And so we still need another one to replace me. But I was trying to stay positive, but I was really feeling like that, I was also inspired to, my pussy told me like she wants to create my own art exhibit. And I was really excited about this idea because I realized, gosh, how much material I have, but definitely didn't know the hows. And I was inspired to join this Asian American Women's Art Association, which I've never joined something like that. This was the other thing. I've been asking for spaciousness. And over the weekend, I had this day with Tony where I actually felt spacious, and we took a walk. And, but I noticed I was actually feeling frustrated because I'm not used to having space. It's like that sense of like, I should be doing more. I should be inspired to create something. And we ended up stumbling into this beautiful exhibit at an African art museum, and it was so moving. And the exhibit was around African goddesses and of the sea who were there to heal souls that died during the African passage, slave ships, of all the people who didn't survive, especially babies. And she made these beautiful costumes with the help of designers, all over Africa. And they were like really large paintings. I think there were photographs that looked like paintings. And then it included a video installation of her in the sea. And it was just so, and I felt transported. It was gorgeous. And it felt so resonant with what I want to create for my own exhibit. Like, I want to transport people into this timeless, eternal realm that also is in service to, offering healing and remembrance of those that have no voice, and honoring my ancestors and Mother Earth. But at the same time that I felt like really inspired by this, and I could have seen it as encouragement, like I'm on the right track, there was another voice that was like, oh, this artist is like, had this fellowship and had access to like all of these artifacts in the Smithsonian, and had all these designers help her, and like the caliber of this beautiful exhibit, like just feeling the gap, like, who's going to support me? How am I going to pull this off? And also remembering that, I've never really worked or tried to be in the art scene because I did not want to, I wasn't interested in like the competitiveness and, you know, trying to make a name for myself and, you know, trying to compete to get into certain galleries or have exhibits. And so I never went down that route. But now that I'm actually thinking of creating this for myself, suddenly I guess those fears are coming up of like, I don't want to do it that way. And yet that's the only way I know, right? Like to start, you know, applying for grants and like having to make connections and network and all of that. I was also like, this is the last week of Vaginal Kung Fu and noticing like, yeah, I had these intentions and that they haven't really come to pass yet. So today I took a walk and my vagina said she wanted me to remember all of the things that I have received through this journey. I had my first session with this Korean art therapist who is covered by my insurance, which is a miracle. I've never seen a therapist long-term, and I was just guided that it was time to do that. And it was just the first session, and it was actually very strange for me to talk to her about all the spiritual stuff because, I mean, to a traditional psychologist, me talking about connecting with ascended masters and, you know, feeling the soul of Korea and wanting to liberate the world from shame can sound like delusions of grandeur. But I was open and I feel hopeful. Like I definitely still feel like she's the right person. I just respect her and I could feel that she was really listening. And next week we're gonna have an art therapy session. But last night I didn't sleep well. I was starting to I was actually experiencing vertigo like while I was sleeping. So every time I turned in the bed, I was experiencing vertigo. So I was really nervous about waking up and not being able to function, but I was able to. And then when I went to the cafe, finding out that another one of our employees is quitting, I just felt like, gosh, like what's happening? I also received this email from someone who is making a documentary about vaginal kung fu and women's experiences of it. And she had happened to see my YouTube videos and, you know, is interested in talking more. So who knows what will come of that, but, you know, that's an opportunity and gift out of nowhere. And other gifts I've received. So I was inspired to start playing with my friend Jen. I received $5,000 from an old boyfriend who 20 years ago, we hadn't talked in 20 years. When I was in Korea the first time after I graduated from college, we were together and he was very intense and going through, he had, we ended up doing pretty heavy drugs together, and I knew it wasn't like the right relationship and it wasn't healthy. And I ended up leaving Korea to sort of like escape from that relationship. And I always wondered, like, I didn't know whether he was like alive or dead or in jail. While we were there, he actually was sent to prison, and I borrowed money to pay for him to get a lawyer so he could be out. And it was $5,000. And his mom had said that she would pay me back, and she did, you know, in increments, but never really paid me back. And 20 years later, I hear from him, and I was a little bit nervous, like, where is he in the world? Like, is he still in trouble? I mean, is this safe for me to open this door? But I thought, you know, I have no idea where he's at. Maybe he's like super healthy and happy and has a family, and, you know, and it's true. He has 5 kids. He has a thriving business, and he said that after I left, he was still doing drugs for about 10 years, and then he, I mean, miraculously just stopped one day, and then I guess channeled all that energy into business and family, and he's been doing pretty well ever since. So I just felt so happy just knowing that he was well, and it felt like, gosh, miracles really do happen. And then in the course of us talking, he was like, oh yeah, by the way, you know, how much was that amount that, you know, you ended up using? And he's like, I'm going to send it to you right now. Like, I want to, you know, kind of like repay all my debts. And so that was like a freaking miracle. And it ended up paying for my work with my stylist friend, Jen. And also this astrology conference I'm going to in Austin. And then as part of my work with Jen, she's is wanting to do these curated photo shoots, type kind of like a Vogue type photo shoot in this land in Texas, where a client and friend of hers has like wildlife there. It's like a safari land, focusing on this concept of wildness. And she was, you know, thinking of doing a beta version for like a lesser price than what she's eventually going to charge. But then she offered, you know, just to do it mostly for free. So that felt like a gift. At first, we were thinking of it being a kind of a girl's thing, right? Like the sacred feminine power thing. But she's noticing that she's being called to work with couples in some way. So now Tony is also going to be part of it, which also feels like a very much an edge for me. I'm so used to being like independent and doing things on my own. So doing things like with a partner feels very different, but it also felt like the right next step. Oh, so other things I've received. My painting and video was accepted into an Asian American art exhibit locally. I got this job working at the farm with flowers, which I've wanted to do for a long time. Fashion show with my friend Mundy, which I've never done before. I'm inspired to create my own art exhibit, and received the inspiration to move into an actual home, like a house with Tony, rather than stay in the condo, which feels so exciting and spacious. So what occurred to me just now is the fact that the closet, this nook, feels like a stage, being a metaphor for the stages of life. Like yes, it seems like I'm hitting these places where, you know, I don't know how these things are manifesting. I'm noticing the things I didn't accomplish during the program that I wanted to. We're having more employee issues at the cafe instead of less. And just remembering that this is a stage. Like, things are in movement, and sometimes pieces have to get moved around, and feelings have to be felt, and space has to be made, you know, and in that space there can be doubt and boredom and disbelief that things are gonna just manifest out of thin air. And yet the practice is surrender and trust. Oh yeah, I also received my first dildo to be used specifically for pleasure. I am able to experience orgasms in a more relaxed way. Like I'm able to open my body more. I still haven't had the life-changing, cervical orgasms that I desire, but again, stages of growth.